Okay, hello. My name is Daniel Gies. I'm the creative and technical director at e.d.Films. Today we're going to be doing a whole bunch of After Effects rigging and some compositing stuff. So now I'm just going to pull up and show you what we'll be working on. We're temporarily back to the Let There Be Light project. Um, this project has been in the works for quite a while, but we're just finishing up a couple of the last scenes here. So it's this section right here. We're doing this character that comes in on a bicycle. And you see he goes up a hill, and basically we open up to the shed where he works. So that's the shed right there. And that's the first scene, and then the next scene we have to do is this train scene where the character's on a train and we're seeing him pull away to start his new career in the big city. So this is the actual finished environment right here. So you can see it's pretty close to the animatic. So we'll be coming from, let's just go back to the start here. It doesn't want to stop. Let's pause this. Let's go back to the start. This will be what we'll be transitioning from. This shot right here, it'll kind of come up and we'll see him working away with the little recent deliveries and stuff going on. This scene is complicated in some ways and it isn't in others. This is an actual 3D house that I built in Maya and then painted in Mudbox. So is a lot of the stuff in here. Some of these assets I bought from TurboSquid. The thing that makes it so it's not super complicated is the grass and stuff aren't really moving. The trees aren't blowing. There's none of that. So I kept that stuff pretty basic. This garage door coming down is absolutely terrible, which will be being fixed in the next iteration of things. But let's turn this off here. Anyway, so we're going to be making the initial scene, which is in the beginning here, which is traveling through the forest up to this spot right here, up to this location. I didn't end up doing a snowy landscape because it was a total repaint job, so I didn't want to have to do that. Okay, so in a previous stream, which no longer exists, we built the bicycle. And that's the character here will be riding. So let's just go to the desktop here. There we are. Okay, this is After Effects at the moment, but here's the actual scene here, or the assets. This is the bicycle. And all the characters in this project are really flat, and then they're treated in After Effects to give them their depth and to give them the activity that's going on the surface, so the texture. Because this was largely animated by another animator, David Seitz, who's working with us. He was mostly doing it in TV Paint and then with shape layers in After Effects. So it's got a very flat aesthetic to it. So trying to match that, I ended up making my puppet as flat as possible. And I have the different layers broken up so that I can animate him more easily because I will be tinting these layers in After Effects after the fact. So it looks a little weird to start, but it'll work just fine. Now he's going to be a mix of a couple of different techniques. So there's the main puppet here, which will just be a 2D puppet, and then I've actually made a head in Maya because he'll be looking around and he's got his little helmet on. This head will actually go on top of his neck, obviously, and that will be done using Element. So I will integrate Element with the puppet tool in After Effects with a basic rig using Duik. I will implement those two things together, and we will have a whole interactive puppet. I've already done one before with a 3D head. The only limitations is using Element. You can't have animated geometry, so you have to animate. You can animate textures that are on top of the geometry, but you can't animate geometry. So this head works really well because I don't need to animate him blinking or anything like that because he's got these goggles on. So it's perfect, and he's not expressing or anything. He's a distant puppet. So I'll be able to have him look around as he rides his bike and generally be effective. This texture is painted in Mudbox, and just while I'm doing this, I do want to point out something. I just recently got a 4K monitor for color corrections because this is a 4K project, and we have a couple of 4K projects coming up. So I got a 4K monitor, and I'm not sure if anyone else has had this problem, but when you're using Mudbox, um, there is a little bit of there's a problem with painting with a 4K secondary display, a secondary 4K display. So I'm just gonna pull something up here really quick, if it'll open. As soon as I have this a 4K monitor, my 4K monitor is right up here, and then I've got my Cintiq tablet right here. When I'm trying to use my Cintiq, actually it isn't detecting my pen clicks very well with Mudbox, and it's also, I suppose I'll just open up a little. I don't know. Let's open this bear, I guess. It also doesn't paint properly. And I thought when I encountered this a week ago, I thought this was because my UVs were messed up or there was something wrong that I had done wrong on the actual geometry, but it was actually something more than that. Oh, so just hang on, just bear with me for 1 second here. Okay, sorry, mail. All right, so when you're in Mudbox and you try to paint on a surface, it won't actually paint. And on top of that, if you have just let's open another scene. Let's just do a new scene and bring in a basic head. This is UV'd by Mudbox Autodesk, so it should be set up properly. Nothing works. It doesn't work at all. So this caused me a ton of stress. I couldn't figure out what was wrong, and I ended up taking my top monitor, and if I put the top monitor back to HD, like to a 1920 by 1080 resolution and not 380 whatever, like by 4K to a 4K monitor, and brought it down to just a standard HD, everything worked fine again. So I could paint on the surface, everything worked fine, but I could not do that. I had this problem right here. Couldn't do anything. Or if it did paint, it would sometimes paint off target. Like I would be painting right here and actually I was getting black marks somewhere else. So anyways, just something, a little heads up for anybody who might be using it. Not that this is the Mudbox channel of the universe. I submitted a little bug, or a bug report, but I'm not sure if they actually even read those things. So that being said, I painted this character's face. It's to be flat shaded, and that will be brought in using Element. So this character was modeled in Maya. I actually used a character generation tool, like a Mixamo, to make his body and head, and then I just pulled the head off and tweaked it. That's just so I could get really quick and simple face geometry that was actually the topology was done properly. So now what I'll do with this is I've assigned a texture map to it, and I'm just going to export it as an OBJ because that's one of the few formats that Element will take. So let's just export selection, and I've before exporting I have frozen the transformations and centered the pivots, so there's no extra, nothing going on here. Everything should line up well. So let's just export this, and I've got a little folder here for OBJs, and I'm going to call this Bowen head. So we'll bring that in later. And the texture should be included. I think I did, let's just go export selection one more time. I included groups and materials. Okay, good. Okay, so we can close this away. We hopefully won't have to come back here. Now, what I want to do next is I want to take this Photoshop file and split it up. Right now I did everything together just because I wanted to make sure the scale was accurate. Oh my gosh, this rig has so many pieces. This is going to be a little bit daunting. So I did this so that the scale was accurate for the bike, but now I can separate these two compositions apart. I don't necessarily want them to be in the same comp. I think it can make things confusing, and it can make space calculations a little bit difficult. Excuse me. So I'm going to save a backup of this. So these are my production PSDs. So I'm going to go, I usually do have a folder for After Effects production, and I'm going to put my Bowen Island stuff in here. Okay, So I'm going to call this bike flat, even though it's not. And then I'll save another one. Oh, let's just call it character bike flat, okay? Oops. So now what I'll do is I'm just going to delete stuff. This one will get rid of the bike. Get rid of that. And we'll center this character into the scene. And then I'm just going to crop this in a little bit. Great. Okay, so also have this in a folder. We don't need it in a folder. If we keep a folder enabled in Photoshop and then import the composition into After Effects, it'll create a nested comp, so we'll be doubling up. It's not necessary. The other thing, I guess I always stress this, is I've named everything. I treat my naming more like you do in 3D applications. So everything's named very specifically. I'll probably end up I will be getting rid of the head, but I'm going to keep it for reference for now. Okay, so that's good. So we'll just save that character bike flat, and then I'm going to open the bicycle scene now. This guy here. And we'll get rid of the guy. Delete. Group and contents. And now this is another way you can delete a group, just group only, and that'll bring everything back in here. So we have lots and lots and lots of things to deal with. It's going to be a pretty elaborate setup because we also have to make the bike move, the bike rig. Excuse me, sorry for sniffing. Okay, so I want to center this as well. There we go. And again, we'll just size the composition. It should be pretty fun once it's all in there, but it is definitely going to be a bit of an undertaking. Okay, so there's the flat bike. Maybe I'll actually see if I can make these comps the same size. I probably can't. Let's just make this 2000 by 2000. Make it a nice square. Save that again. This one can't be 2000 by 2000. It'll have to be bigger. This will be 2500 by 2500. I'm just going to make them a nice square. It makes the math a little bit easier sometimes. Great. And then center this roughly there. Cool. Okay, so these files are all set up. Again, it's named very specifically. There's a lot of stuff on the bike. I wasn't even sure what to name it. Maybe I may have too many layers, but I can merge those into nested comps later. Okay, so let's just close this out. Save. All right, so we don't need this open anymore. Go into After Effects, and I'm going to just start a new composition because we're just rigging for now. I'm not going to, the next stage, I will build the forest and everything like that, and I'm hoping to stream that as well. But for now, we're going to focus mostly on the rig. Okay. After Effects production and characters, Bowen Island. And this will be the bike puppets. We'll both import both of these. Okay. All right, we're already off to a great start. Okay, so we can approach this two ways. We can do the bike first or the character first. The bike is going to be a bit of a 2.5D affair, so I will be turning this, like I just did, into a 3D layer. We can add a camera. I'm going to use a pretty long lens, so possibly 50 millimeters, because I don't want it to have too much distortion. And we'll just take a look. So what I'll be doing here is actually spacing this apart quite a bit so that I can give it not only some depth, but so that it can work well with the actual character as he's animated on it. So this starts out super flat, but I'm going to go through and we will be creating, depth on this thing. This should be pretty fun and simple. I've done a bike. I've done a bike before. They're not super hard because there's not a lot of components to animate. However, they can be a little bit tricky when it comes to actually getting the circular movement of the pedals to drive the character's movement. So that's kind of what I'll be doing is I'll be using mostly the character's pedaling to drive the animation, which I do it a bit. I do it procedurally because I don't want to actually have to fight with animating the character, lining things up. I want the feet to drive the movement. So whenever the pedals turn, that'll be the primary point of animation. Is I will actually be creating a control that literally just turns the pedals, and that will drive the rest of the whole character. Kind of like what do they call those? The automatons, where you have like almost like a clock toy. And then after that, on top of that, I will animate a little bit more of the actual character. Okay, so I'm just giving you a real quick look at how the 3D will come together. Maybe I'll make this background gray. I am really excited about doing this particular prop because I think it'll be fun. Let's go -40 on that, and then put the pedal to -60. Cool. And with the pedals, I'll probably do 2 of them. So normally what I do, well, not normally. I mean, I've done one bike before. So the one time I did a bike before is I made the pedal, gave the pedal a bit of depth. So I have this one, I'll take this position, and I'm going to apply this, copy and paste that position to the back pedal. And then I can just I can tuck this in and duplicate it out as many times as I need to create a little bit extra depth in there. So now the pedal has more than just one piece to it. So it's a little bit, see? Feels a bit more like a pedal. It's already looking sweet in 3D. So yeah, that's one little math trick there. And then obviously we need another pedal. So I'm going to color these. I'll make my left side green. So everything on the left will be green. Anything where there's a left, right, on my left I'll color green, and my right I'll color red, because I'll actually have to duplicate this whole thing. So I'm going to parent the pedals to the shaft. Now the shaft I'm going to parent to something different altogether because it will actually have to rotate from the center. So let's just go to the front here. And I'm just going to create a new null layer and create it like this, or Control-Alt-Shift-Y, which sometimes I forget. And for the anchor, I'll put the anchor at 50 and 50. Uh-oh, we're playing for some reason. That will center the pivot point so it's not up in the top corner of the bone or the null object. And I'm just going to put this in the middle right there. This will be my pedal axle. And I'll use this to drive a lot of the different animations. So let's take this. We have the pedal shaft. I should technically name this. So this will be left. And then pedal back, left. Now, naming, again, is important just because if you're going to be doing coding and you don't want to have to be pick whipping everything and you keep a general naming convention in your head, it's a little bit easier just to tweak things and fix things without having to jump between compositions and figure out what you called something. It just makes it's a little bit more intuitive. So I'm just going to put this down here for now, and let's make this, maybe we won't make it red, maybe we'll make it yellow because, well, no, I usually make center objects yellow. This is just a practice I developed, I was taught for 3D when I was learning off digital tutors. You kind of separate your colors, so my controllers on the left or the right is red, the other side is blue or green, and then my core stuff I usually make yellow. It just helps to visualize the controllers a lot faster so you're not fumbling through them, because sometimes, well, as you'll see, the layers can get quite out of hand. Now these have to be named differently. You can't have 2 of the same name. If you do have something named the same and you call it up in an expression, it will cause a problem for you. Now the other thing I'm going to do is I want to make sure that my layer order is okay. I have a little code that'll organize the layer orders for us, but it's not necessary at the moment. So, oops, we're in front view. Let's go to custom. Okay, so now we have 2 pedals. Great. So we could just take the pedal shaft and scale it into the negative along the Z. That should give us the opposite. Or we can just, do it manually, which is another way to go for sure. So this is 9.6. I might just do this -10, or I'll do this one at 10, and then this one, just like to have my numbers clean if I can, only because, again, like when I'm doing code stuff, it's just a little bit easier to work with whole numbers. Okay, let's just push this over to the other side. That'll be at 40. Okay, and then it'll be rotated around. The only thing I'm going to do is, instead of mirror flipping this thing on the scale, I'm going to do it manually, only because it just keeps it a little bit cleaner to deal with. As you can see, some of the rotations, they're already having a weird, well, it's stacking, it's a stacking effect on things. So right now, if we look at this, we'll see everything has a rotation there. So we want to turn that off. Well, we don't want to turn it off. Like when you turn it off, now it inherits. When you put it to 0, sorry, I'm kind of jumping all over the place. When you have a parented object and that object is rotated, and these objects are rotated around it, if you ever want to zero an object out so it's orientated to the parent layer, you just press 0. Put everything to 0 and it will line up perfectly to that object. But we don't really want that. We want this to be more like horizontal. So really what you need to do is you need to counter rotate it the opposite direction of the layer itself, which is, this is kind of unintuitive. So the best thing, what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to delete those, because we've got our pedal there now, and I'm just going to duplicate. Sorry, I'm kind of wasting time, but it's a stream, you know, I can't refine, I didn't plan this specifically, so you don't get the same tutorial structure here. We'll duplicate these, take their parenting off, put them here. Again, I'll just turn this to right. So this layer order is going to be a bit different too. Oops, that should be. I thought I renamed that already. Back. We'll just go back 0, 1, back 0, 2. Okay. So now pedal right for this one. My duplicate ones here. This one's going to be at the opposite. So this one's at -65. I'm going to put it at 65. And I'm also going to fix these numbers here. Even though these are parented at the moment, it's just going to go -60, -40, -10. Just cleaning the numbers here. Okay. Now this is lining up a little bit weird. Probably because it was parented. Oh, hey, how do you say your name, man? It's Repazor, maybe? I can't remember. I don't know how to say your thing. Well, welcome to the stream. Thanks for liking my shirt. I might have to deal with something really quickly here. Stop on this. Okay. So all I'm doing right now is I'm just trying to line these guys up. Basically, I'm just going to turn this off. They've inherited a weird exposition here. I just want to get these all back to being the same. Okay, I'm going to just turn this off because it's making it. This is all making it a little bit difficult because it's parented to keep things clean. Okay. You can see the values have got a little messed up. I want everything to be the same for now, and then I'll rotate it. There we go. And see, all these little guys are a little bit weird. -95, just because of the way things are. So now, pedal right here. Now this is we want the back ones to be in the front here. Actually, it doesn't matter. So we want to go the opposite values here. So this will be 95, 65, or sorry, this should be 65, this should be 95, and this should be 115. Okay, that doesn't look like it's, oh yeah, no, that doesn't quite look right, does it? Definitely having a bit of a tough time with my values here. They should be equal, but this is 65, negative 95, negative, I'm probably doing something really obviously wrong. But they don't seem quite, they don't seem the same at all actually to me, but just really weird. Oh, that's why. One of these is in the y-axis way up. So none of the y's are matching here. It's really weird what actually happened there. So I'm just going to get everything to a clean number. Okay. So that should be a little bit better, a little bit easier to deal with. There we go. Finally, everything is proper. Okay, so for these back pedals here, I'll probably bring these a little bit closer together. Okay, so let's put this to negative 95, and then let's see, I might want to bring this one a little bit closer, negative 85, and this one will go to negative 105. Okay. There. Okay. It's a little bit cleaner. All right, so now we'll just put these pedals and parent them. What I might actually end up doing is let's take these guys and parent them both to this pedal, and these guys here, we'll put everything to the front pedal. Well, the front pedal on this one and the back pedal on this one. Just want something with the most, kind of a mess here. Pedal shaft is in front, sorry. Pedal shaft front. Sort of making sure they're stacked in the right order. Now, I think what I'll do is I might create just a null object or something. I'm not 100% sure yet. So this one, let's parent these guys here, and this one. So these two are parented to that one, and then this is parented to the shaft. I know this is a little weird. We're jumping all over the place, but we'll get all that sorted out later. So now, the next thing I want to do is rotate this shaft. So let's just put the rotation anchor here. I'll rotate it. Like this. So this is going to mess up the rotation up here. So you can see now it's coming into the whole thing. So let's go negative 180. This we could put to negative 10, or could be done up here. Doesn't matter, because we're not actually going to be using any of this stuff to drive the rotations here. We'll be using the pedal axle, which we need to make 3D. There we go. So both of these, both pedal shafts will be parented to the pedal axle. Oops. And I might actually even just duplicate this out and go pedals. And this can be the pedals themselves. Just put this to 50. The pedals themselves will actually be driven by another thing to rotate them, but essentially, largely the pedals will remain level with the ground as the axle rotates. So if you can see, the axle rotates this way. We're going to want the pedals to lose their rotation. So you could do a couple things. Is you could use the Duik tools, the Duik plugin, to make an orient or a zero, which a zero out. Looks like there's an update. I should probably download it. But so what you can do is you can make this zero. So let's just, I think it's in here. Right, so this will keep its orientation despite the transformations of its parent. So if petals here is stuck here, what we can do is create this, and this should have, just hang on, if we click, did I do it? No. Okay, if we click on here, did it do anything? There we go. So now, oh, it has two goals now. We don't want to do that. Uh-oh. Okay, do it again. So now it has a goal. So what should happen is as this petal rotates, so it's not actually working. I might need to grab the update. That might be what the problem is. Let me just delete this, because this should have actually activated a value here. So let's just do this manually, just in case you don't have Duik. All you have to do is take the rotation of this thing, the petal axle, and subtract it from the rotation here. I preserve this rotation so I can actually animate it, but I'm going to subtract rotation off this guy there. So now whenever the axle rotates, that'll stay stationary. So then what I can do here is just take the petal, the root petal, the one that is the parent of everyone here, and just take its rotation. I'm going to do the same thing just in case I want to customize any animation. And we'll just do that. Okay, and I'll do the same thing with this petal. That's the shaft, pedal shaft. There, okay, nope, not position, rotation. There. Now what that should do, there you go. So now the pedals will just orient to the ground. Okay, so better save this. Bowen, Island, bike. Okay, I have to really quickly do an output of a timeline for something here, so we have to take a little break from this. So I will stop this stream and then pop back on in just a few minutes. Okay, so once again, my name is Daniel Gies. I am the Creative and Technical Director at e.d.Films. Back from a small distraction from I had to do a timeline delivery on something else, so had to get away from the bike for a little bit. Now we're back at it. Hopefully it will make sense jumping back in here. Basically, I was setting up the pedals for this bike and the 3D functionality of it a little bit, built in this object here, which is the null object that will drive the rotations, and then left the pedals so that they could be rotated independently. So this currently drives the pedal rotation, both of them, but they will need to have their own individual, which I imagine they're going to be actually parented to the cycling character's toes. So I won't actually drive the animation through the pedals. So I guess what I thought I would do is maybe continue fleshing this bike out, and then in the next round get into the actual character. Because there is some interesting stuff that's going to happen here. So I think the next thing I'll do is we will get some more of these pieces going. So we have this pipe piece here. I'll pull that off. So the pedals are done, and I'm just going to lock these once they're done. And let's get this pipe thing here. So with the pipe, I was thinking of pulling it off, but also putting it at an angle, a slight angle. Now that will depend on where these extra pieces end up being positioned. So the pipe's out. We have the engine of the bottom. So that's sort of like this muffler thing. Pull that out a little bit too. I don't want it, I want it far out enough that we will get enough of a parallax to make this worth doing, but not so far out that we can reveal problems. But I did paint it pretty well to make sure that I had some good modularity in it. Let's just do -50. I'll probably have to duplicate it for the other side as well. I didn't paint two of them, I only painted one, so it may not actually work the way I'm hoping. We'll see. So then there's this wheel guard. Now why I didn't put the engine cowl, what's going on here? For some reason my mouse isn't working. Sometimes this happens. I've been finding it a lot lately. Okay, so that's the wheel cowl, or wheel guard. Put it at -25. Let's just see where that is. Okay, so this bike, I have to get this whole rig finished up really quickly. We can't spend too much time on it. There's lots to do. Okay, so there, engine top, which is what? It's that thing. So that's coming off the wheel. That should probably be in behind, obviously, the guard. So let's do this. Let's take the guard back. Excuse me. And we'll pull it off here. And I'm going to angle it down a little bit too. So let's go rotate it. Now, angling things can be either good or bad. A downside of angling, putting things at other than straight angles, is the lighting can be a little bit weird in After Effects, where things will get really dark because they're angled away from the lights. So if we just go here really quick, I put in a light, what'll happen is that this wheel guard thing, because it's not rotated, it's not flat to the camera, it will have a slightly different lighting value than everything else. You'll see it gets darker and darker as it rotates down. This can be a problem, especially if you want everything to look uniform and you add lighting. So you have to go and increase the transmission and all that kind of stuff. So something to think about if you're actually going to start putting things at angles. It can create its own set of problems. But if you're not using lighting, it's great because it can make some really nice parallax effects. So we have the engine, make that peach for now. The wheel guard, we have this mount. Now this mount is actually meant to be rotated down. So let's just go here. Bring this like that. I want this at an angle to be going out like a little Y. So let's go back here. I've only got about an hour for this stream. So I'm going to try to do as much as I can in that hour. Now I want to avoid, if I can help it, intersections. Not that you're going to see much of this one, but just want to, oops. This isn't the best program to work in 3D with, for sure. Okay. Okay. But the nice thing about After Effects 3D engine is it's really good at depth sorting. At least in this mode. If I'm working with Maya or something, there's typically a lot more flickering and problems using materials with transparencies, and After Effects is definitely geared towards that. Put -5. Okay, and I'll probably bring that pipe more further forward. So let's bring that further forward. Just want it to come. Oh, it has to be further forward anyway because it has to sit in front of this. I guess technically I could parent this pipe to the engine bottom, and I'll make them a similar color just so I can remember that they're together visually. Oh, geez. Okay. Peach. There you are. Okay. And I think I might change the point of rotation here. So for this thing, I'm going to nest it as a composition so I can put some puppet tool stuff on it, but that'll be for later. Let's go here. Now this may have to be angled in. Probably it'll have to be angled in depending on what happens. So we'll see. Engine wheel guard, engine back, engine top. What is the engine top? It's this one. Okay. Let's bring this out. Okay, and okay. Now, so we also have this vent intake thing, which we can use to help leverage the depth a bit more. Main thing I'm worried about is the collision of those two layers, and also working with this angled spar here that's sitting in front. So that's supposed to be behind this thing and that little cowl, which I'll probably duplicate it out. I have to be careful in duplicating things too much and using them too many times over, because they definitely will reveal that they're repeats quite easily. And I don't want to have to paint a bunch of new assets. Okay. I think it's important to remember, though, that After Effects is really quite capable when it comes to layered 3D stuff. So I remember I was really always quite nervous and hesitant to rotate layers in anything but the Z axis, because I was thinking of it more as traditional animation and the Z plane with a camera with I can't remember those cameras that Disney used. Can't remember what they're called, but that's sort of how I used to think of it. I want to take a look at. Okay, so this little cowl piece, let's have this light orb. I'm going to bring the intake of this one here, not cowl, the intake. Let's put this intake further forward. Now the big question is, something's happened here where this is no longer, this thing here is no longer working. Oh, it got moved, that's why. It's totally way far forward. Something that happens for some reason in After Effects, especially with the Cintiq tablet, is it will suddenly act like I'm holding down, like pressing down the whole time. And so as I move the mouse, it starts dragging stuff all over the place. It loses contact every now and then. And it's something that's been happening in Windows 10 a lot. And I think it's because Windows 10 is designed to work with tablets, but it doesn't by default work really well with Cintiqs, because Cintiqs have their own set of rules. And so Windows feels like it's trying to work with more conventional tablet types with less functionality. So it has all these built-in behaviors and functions that the Cintiq doesn't use specifically. So I find it can be actually really frustrating to set up. So there's a lot of stuff you have to do in the preferences to remove the effects of Windows from your Cintiq. If any of you guys, if anyone out there ever wants me to ever go through that process, it's pretty. I mean it's not super fun, but if you want to know, I can walk through the process of how to disable a lot of the features in Windows 10 so that the Cintiq functions a bit better. Because you actually do lose functionality. Your color picker will act weird in Photoshop. The reaction time of stuff is slower. It's actually overall not a very good experience. It's not very intuitive right out of the box with Windows. And maybe that's gotten better with some of the driver updates and stuff. I don't know, but okay. Uh-oh, it's done that thing again. It's all hung up. See? Okay, there we go. I'm on the wrong side. Okay, so I think you can probably already see we're getting some nice depth. The only thing that might be a bit of a problem is the pipe. I may have to do something, angle it the other way. I'm not sure. Or make it more flat, which is fine. Let's rotate it and just make it more flat because I'm finding it's a bit too far off the front of the engine. Just making it feel like it's floating in space a bit. Okay. Okay. Now, next thing. This engine piece. I like the engine being at 0, so that's good. We're going to have to bring this little thing off. So let's go one through at a time. This has been done. This has been done. Not that this stuff won't change. The light orb, that's actually a glow layer. So I want that in front of everything else. And I'll probably scale it up. Okay, and then maybe I'll even bring that a little bit further out. It might not work if it's too far out because if the thing moves too much, it won't play nicely. Okay, so let's go negative 45 and we'll scale it up later. Light base should be in front, I believe. Okay. All right, so that's a negative 15. And I'm going to parent these together and then the light. I feel like I didn't really organize my layers super well when I was doing this. We'll parent the light to the light base as well, even though it's behind. And we'll put all these into one color. We'll do an orange. So now we have this light object that we can use a little bit better. Okay, wait a minute. That seems weird. This, that, and that. Okay, we're okay. This seemed a little odd. Okay, all right, that's them. I think that glowing light orb is probably either a bit too far away or maybe let's do 2 of them. We'll do one that's at 30 as well, and we'll just scale it up. 150. And rotate it so that they're not exactly the same. Make sure its rotation point is centralized on the hot spot. There we go. And rotate. Looks a little gross, but I'll just move it down a bit. And we'll just take these 2 light orbs and just lower the opacity a little bit so it's not so strong. And the front one will be the stronger one. So it can be toned down a bit. And that way it should preserve some of the volume of it. Because we're not going to move that much. We'd probably maximum move this much on the bike. Cool. Okay. Let's go. Next thing. Light orb, intake vent main. I may put 2 of those in there. I'm not sure yet. Main exhaust is at 0, which is fine. This bottom exhaust can come forward. This should probably go up by the engine bottom. I'm going to parent that to this one and put it at 25. Okay. Yeah, I think that's good. Okay. I could probably go a little further with it, but that would mean this side guy has to come off a little more, which might mess everything up a little bit. Let's see. Let's go negative 100 just to see. I want to see how far that is. That's pretty far. Let's go negative 70. Okay. Now, I may have to just angle this pipe piece now in like that, which is going to be a little weird at first for here. Probably have to scale it up a little bit to account for the perspective. I just want to make sure it's not clipping into that front engine piece at all. Okay, great. Now let's do the rest of the bike. We have the chain guard. So the handle I'm not going to deal with right now, so I'm going to color that something that's really obvious. Chain guard we'll put at minus, I don't know, -5. Nothing too crazy. It's really quite close to the core of the bike. Pedal gear, there is a pedal gear. Actually, let's put the chain guard at -8, -8. The pedal gear at -3. And then the seat we'll put at -5. I'll put that there. Chain guard, pedal gear. Handlebar front, that's going to go fuchsia with this one. And this is the fork. So the fork, I think I'll put all together as one thing. So I'm going to, well, not put them all together as one thing, but just parent them together. And then I will color them specifically. Because this one, I think what I'll do is I'll bring the fork a little ways off. So pretty far. And just angle it in a bit. Like that. So that'll give us a little bit of depth with it, and I'm going to duplicate it so there's 2 of them. And I'll make the fork base in just a touch. 3, position 5. So there we go. Okay. Now, and I need to make 2 of those. So I guess I could do that now. Just duplicate this. Actually, I should be following my color code. So they should be red. And with this one, I'm going to keep the ordering the same because I still need it to look pretty much the same. So I don't need to do the same as I did with the pedals. And this one I'm going to put in 30. And we're going to rotate it the opposite direction. There we go. And I can always darken it and do some other stuff to it to make it look a little bit different if we need to. But that shouldn't really be much of a problem with how far away the bike's going to be and how much everything's bouncing and moving around. Excuse me. Okay. Part of this will be rigging things up a little bit to make the shock sort of work a little, which will be neat. Okay, and now we have the spokes. We have spokes, 2 sets in each one. We have a front and a back pair, and then the wheel. So the wheel I'll probably keep at a 0, and then the spokes I'm going to push in, and obviously they'll be parented to the wheel. I'll group that together. So we'll make them yellow because they're middled. Okay, those are parented. These are parented. I'm going to change this to wheel back. Great, and then this one to wheel front. Okay, and probably want to put the front wheel above the back wheel just so it's a little more clear. And let's put these spokes in, set them a bit. So this will be 5, this will be 10. Could be too much, we'll see. Yeah, it's definitely too much. Let's go 2 and 5. Can always scale it up as scale everything up as a whole afterwards, after it's all parented and put together. Okay, cool. That's done there. Now we have the fenders. So I have both of them together. So it's just -2. Okay, I just want to make sure really have to make sure they're not colliding with anything. So put -3. I guess something else to think of, handlebar tube. Oh, there's like a little bit of something attached to that, so we're going to clean that up. I may want to separate the fenders just because If I want them to, the wheels to bounce a little bit, I won't want the fenders to be unified like they are. Right now they're all one piece, so I'll probably want a fenders front and back. So there's a fender front, fender back. Let's just go like this. Really quick and dirty. Donk. And we'll re-centralize the pivot point somewhere there, that's fine. And we'll do the front one. Okay, cool. There we go. Okay, and those are both at -3. Handlebar 2, but that can probably be at, let's put it in a little bit, 3. Maybe, yeah, let's do 5. And this one can be at 5. And the light handle can be at 0, I think. The main frame has to be either at 0 or slightly in front. It has to be in front of the fenders. So let's put it at -5. I'm just curious. I'm not sure if I have other things. I must have other things at -5. Definitely have other things at -10. So let's try -5. Because there's a back. Oh, this one. Yeah. This one needs to be at -6. And it should technically be at an angle too, but we'll see. It may not work very well at an angle. Could just make a big old mess. I think I might just leave it because I feel like that could get really... Let's see, there's a lot of stuff in there. I don't want to have weird intersections and things. So normally this would come off a lot more and then angle in a bit. I just don't really know if it's that necessary, honestly. I don't know if it'll make that much of a difference visually. Okay, but we'll leave it for now. Okay, basket and mounts. Okay, so these are the basket mounts. Now there's no suspension on the back wheel, but there is on the front. So we're going to want to split this again because this wheel will be coming up and down. Unless we don't have the fender attached and it's just a wheel going up and down, which no, the fender has to be attached, never mind. So basket mount and engine mount, we'll do a front and back. Front, and duplicate this. Back, okay. And once again, I just have to clean it up. There we go. Y, put it there. And then the back one, clean it up. Great, and then I'll put the rotation point down by here, down by the axle, wheel axle. Okay, and then this one, the back one's tricky. I think we probably want that in front of everything. Everything being, like we technically would want it in front of the engine too, but my concern is it's getting pretty tight with everything. Plus it, what works better? Because if we have everything in front there, I mean, it can't be that far out. It has to rotate in. It's just a matter of what is that going to take? So if we're like that, let me bring it in until it's in front of the engine. We want it in front of the engine, but not going through that pipe, obviously. So that means I need to bring that pipe forward more. Just want to make sure we're not intersecting with other things. Too many other things. Okay, because that pipe's also at, and that engine thing's also at slight angle this way. So let's just see if we can do that. This may just be horrible, causing me tons of problems. We're going to find out. So okay. I think it's fine for now. I'm not seeing any major problems. I might have to move that pipe a little further back, but maybe not. We'll see. I think things get a little sketchy as you get further back. Things we'll start seeing. There you go. Actually, we're seeing it. No, we're not. It's fine. Maybe also once you add lights, that can happen, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. Okay, so far so good. It's pretty complicated actually. So basket, engine mount, front. We just want it in front of the fender. This thing too also has to be in front of the fender, which I forgot about. Whatever that is. This thing. Fender front. Is that part of the fender? No, it's whatever this bar is here. That thing. Where is that? Lock. There we go. Okay, let's find this thing. It's way up here. The front support. So this needs to be at a bit of an angle because it has to be touching the wheel here, but it has to also come out a little bit to make for the basket support. So let's have a look. Right now, it should be at 0, so we'll put it at -5, and then we'll rotate it out a little bit this way, like 3 degrees. Great. Hopefully that looks okay. Looks all right, I think. Okay, and then now we need to take the basket front. Basket engine mounts front. So that's got to come forward until it just intersects with this thing. So we want to be like, bop, there it goes through and there. So we'll be in here somewhere. So let's go -15. Great. And then we have these two boxes. Now they're going to be parented to the wicker basket. To Thoreau's wicker basket. We'll make that brown, since everything in this is brown. Let's go 25. And this one's going to be 50. And the basket's just going to be at 0 for now, but we'll bring it forward until it's just actually right there. Just bring it to -25, and we'll rotate the box support, this thing, a little bit more, 5 degrees. But that's also bringing it so it's colliding with this front fork. So we want to take this and pull it out just a touch further. Position -35. And then the other one should be +35. Well, we don't have to make it +35, but position, make it 35 just for now. Great. Okay, turn this off, see how it's feeling. Pretty good so far. It's pretty, bike's looking awesome. It's already got a lot of depth. So I'm going to work on this handlebar really quick. So this thing will parent it to the actual handlebar. I don't think we need to have it ordered so much like this. Let's bring it off just a bit, -10. Now what I was thinking of doing with the handlebar is actually, oops, I'm in the wrong place. That was supposed to be -10, not 50. -10. What I was thinking of doing is making this handlebar a puppet tool so that I could deform it so that it looked a little bit, or do something else with it. Like I could do a scale and a skew kind of thing. We'll see though. I mean, I want to represent it well, but I also don't want to create a whole bunch of extra work. I think Thoreau's had recommended doing a 3D one, which I'm not opposed to, but it does definitely complicate the process significantly. So one of my thoughts is possibly here to play with its scale and rotation. So let's go, we'll rotate it on the y-axis like this, and then we'll scale it out on the x to compensate for that shift that happens because it's facing the camera more, and maybe even just pull it out a bit more because I'm thinking of it kind of like one of those T-bars that go like that. So it's already off the wheel quite a bit. So let's go negative 25. And now it's also at an angle. So I think that's pretty possibly enough. And then we'll like pull the little handlebar forward more until it's intersecting. And then I'm going to position it so it's more ideal. And because I want to give that a bit of that sense of a curve, I think I want to keep the handlebar itself as flat as I can. The only other thing I have to consider is that the character is eventually going to be holding the handle. So I'm going to have to create a separate, like duplicate the puppet rig and then have like a front piece, a mid piece, and a back piece. And I need to keep that in mind when I'm doing this kind of layering, because if the shoulder is too far away from the body, it can start to look weird because of the parallax effect. So it's just important to consider all these things. Okay, so now I think we're ready to double up some of the pieces to create some thickness. Well, especially here. So we have this engine. I think this is the bottom. No, that's the spokes you've got selected. We want to get this thing. Bottom exhaust, engine bottom. Let's make it pink. I'm going to duplicate this thing. Okay, and I'm going to make it, I'll make it red to go with, I believe, the right side. Is that what we've been doing? Yeah. We'll bring it down. Now this one may not work super well, but we'll see. So I'm going to put this, because this should be lower. And let's make it 70, which is pretty far. And then this one should be at, well, it's at 25 already, so that's good. We don't want it in front because it won't look good. There we go. So now we have the second one. The nice thing about this is it's so far behind, so much behind the wheel and stuff, we're really not going to see much of it. So it actually obscures the repetitive nature of it quite nicely. Cool. Okay, so the only other thing is this engine piece. I think possibly look at duplicating it and putting another one, but I'm not 100% sure it's necessary. Might be better just to, well, it's already rotated a bit, so let's just see, what is the rotation on that? Let's go 358. I'll duplicate it and push it in to 58. So that's what it looks like when it's pushed in. Let's just change its rotation to 2 degrees. I don't know if it's necessary to have it doubled up because I feel like it's doing it kind of a bit of a disservice. So what I would do maybe is just take the intake. Let's try doing the intake. Let's see what that looks like. That should be parented to the engine top. And this engine top should be parented to the mount. Let's make these green. Just duplicate that vent and push it in. 50 or even more, 100. Probably too much. And then we can push it back a bit. And we could possibly even deform it a little bit if we want to. But let's just see how it feels. We'll never see the bike at that angle, at least I hope not. So it's almost unnecessary unless we change the shape of it. Because 155.8. Okay. So that's where it should be in order to be equidistant, I guess would be the word. The only thing is that it's got a bit of a weirdness to it, so we need to deform it a bit. So we can either use the puppet pin, or, that's probably one of the easiest ways to do it. I'm not sure what is more memory intensive. Definitely don't need that many triangles. We can pull this like this and like that. That should hide. But I don't know, then again, if we do that, like, does it look any good anymore? Not really. I don't like it. So the other option is we'll delete this, is put both of the intake vents a little further back. Let's see how that looks. Like that. Not good. So let's do, oh, weird. Really getting some computer hangups today. Okay, let's do this. We have this one a little bit in, and that one like that. And maybe I'll scale it up just a bit. So, or yeah, no, I'll go like this. I'll rotate it like this, and then I'll bring it down so that it's intersecting with that thing. Cool. So that will hide, gives us a little depth, but we don't reveal it anywhere, hopefully. Yeah, there we go. Cool. I mean, I just don't think we're not going to be much at those angles anyway, but there you have it. Okay, that's good. I guess, what else can we do here? I think that's about it. I mean, there's lots of stuff we could do, but I don't, is it really any of it necessary? Not 100%. So it's really just depending on how much the bike moves. But we do tend to follow the bike pretty closely. So the only other thing I could think would be possibly an issue is the basket. And what we can do with that is it's just a thought more than anything. I don't know if it's actually necessary. Is we could first off, we could mask it off, this edge here. Okay. Okay. Feather that. 5, maybe 2, maybe 3. Okay. And then we'll duplicate this. Duplicate. Oops, not the mask. Duplicate the whole thing. Put this down here. Change the orientation angle or point right there. Take the mask and invert it to a subtract. And then also take the mask and reduce its expansion just a touch. Make sure we're still cutting off. Oops. Cutting off there and cutting off there. Good. Okay. And now what we can do with the second part of the basket, let's just make sure this is in the right place. Okay. We can rotate this part back this way. So we're giving it a little bit of depth going in. So we look at it, kind of give it just a little bit of that, and then I'll scale it along the x-axis to be deeper. There we go. And then I'll take this box and move it in a bit so that they're not intersecting. Might be hard to see, but they're just so slightly intersecting. So now we'll have just a little bit more depth to that basket. And if it's overlapped properly, you shouldn't notice it too much. We don't want it. I think that's annoying is seeing the mask. We'll turn that off for now. Let's go in just a touch and over. I want to make sure that we're 5. Let's bring this box over a little bit more because it's still colliding with this. And see, it's also creating a false sense of security because that basket is in the wrong. It's not 100% covered. There. Cool. I mean, I don't know if that's 100% necessary. It's really more if we get more at an angle like that, which means we need to be a little bit closer. So let's just put it to 2. And we'll scale it in a little more. And then we'll scale out more. And over more. Cool. Great. Okay, so I think that's the bike. I mean, I guess the other thing to deal with would be the suspension, which I'm trying to think what would happen actually on this bike. So the wheel would go in and out. The fender should probably stay where it is, but the only thing that would actually move would be this bottom piece here. And this mount, because that mount is linked to the wheel, unless we moved that mount to somewhere else. Because if it's linked to the wheel, whenever the wheel goes up and down, this thing has to go up and down as well. So we may want to fix that. I'm not sure. Let's have a look here really quick at this fork front root there and this. Now this one, the problem with this is it's at an angle, which makes it a little bit more annoying to do the math for if we're going to be doing any kind of shocks, because it has to go in and out over at a certain amount. But I think what I'll do for now is leave it. We won't do shocks unless it's really necessary, because it may not be. I want to think about that one. I want to be careful with that, because we have two of them. What it would, yeah, I don't think it'll, like, we're really barely going to even see it for the amount that it would be going in and out. It probably isn't worth it. Okay, so let's just close all this stuff. So then the next thing we want to do is let's just test our pedals. I think we have our pedals. What other kind of rigging would there be on a bike? We have our pedals. I hid the chain because I didn't want to have to animate the chain. I've done the last one I did, I had a chain moving on it, which was a nightmare. The other thing would be is like bumping pieces, like things rattling around a little bit, which would be like these things here. So I guess what I will do next is have these, you know, things like this, but parent them properly so that they're, you know, we want, if this is rotating, this one is still sticking to the thing, and then we have a little bounciness in it. So maybe let's just compose this pipe really quick. We're going to call it pipe comp, call it bike pipe. Okay. So with this, what we could do, it will scale this up a little bit. And then put a little puppet pins on it here. Here, reduce the expansion. Whoops. To 5. It'll put that pin in another spot. Looks like I have to redo the puppet pin completely. So there, there, and there. My thought is to get something going like this where it's bumping around a little bit. And maybe actually if we're going to do that, we probably should go this, 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 and then this, because I don't want the whole thing rotating around. So this will bump around. But then what we want is also to be able to track this point so that it stretches compared to what's happening with the bike here. So if this piece is rattling up and down, bump, 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 like that, that the pipe would follow it. So I'll do that really quick. I still have to rig up the light so that it works with it, but I think, and actually let's scale that pipe down a bit, because it's sort of overshooting. There we go. All right. So I think what I'll do is I'll create a null object, and then I will parent that null to the, well, I don't even need to create a null object actually. What I need to create is I need to figure out whatever this engine is, what it's mounted to, because we probably want it to, let's just go engine, find the engine top. There it is. Go here, and I'll just mount it. I'm going to put the anchor point down by the mount, where it would most likely be mounted. So, because I want to be able to rattle it around a little bit higher. So maybe there. And now what I want to do is I want to take its position. What is it parented to? It's parented to what? It is parented to 15, which is the mount. Okay. So let's just leave the mount as is. We know that we'll be parented to that always. So the engine's going to have a position right here. Let's put this to 30. Put this to -10. Put this to, well, we'll put that. That's 212 is fine. I just want a number that's easy to deal with. And I want to take a null object here, so we'll put some bones on this. So just select this layer. Let's save it really quick. Add bones. There we go. I'm not going to. I might name a couple. I'll name a couple here. So this will be bone, pipe, mid. But I only want to name the ones I'm going to work with because otherwise I could spend a little while naming these. I'm going to create a new controller, a new null right here. I'll make that yellow. I'll put that here. Okay. Call it C top. Duplicate that. C bottom. BOT. There we go. Put that here. Great. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take its position and I'm going to create a variable called, I don't know, we'll call it like ENG POS for engine position equals, and I'm going to put 0 for now, just until I get my math down. Then we need this, bracket, we need that, and then this we can go POSX equals, and this one we can go POSY equals, here, POSX, POSY. Let's call this engine position or original, like origin, and then we'll take ENG POS minus, actually engine position, so that's going to be this one. We'll put this for 0 for now. I'm going to show you what I'm going to do in a second. And then ENG DIFF is equal to engine, ENG underscore position minus ENG underscore POS ORIG. I kind of want to, let's get this consistent here. Capital O, capital S. And then capital O, capital S. Okay, so now these ones, these guys here, nothing should happen really. So what I want to do here is I just want to grab the value here. Let's bring this over. Of this, the original position of this guy is 212 and 30. And also engine position is going to be, let's just pick whip that over to this guy's engine position. Okay. And then the 212, 30, negative 10. So engine position original is 212, comma 30, comma negative 10. Not that the negative matters because we're not going to be reading it in 3 dimensions, but okay, so that's engine position original. Engine position, that's its current position. Engine diff is the subtraction. Engine, now what we want to do is we want to add, so we can go here, we want to add the XY of both of the difference. So ENG underscore DIFF, and we want the 0, that's for X. And then for the next one, we want the Y. Now, we got a problem. What did I do wrong? Position line 5, property or method. Okay, so I've named something wrong. Oh, underscore. It's that thing I've got to keep consistent. There we go. So now that's not right because it hasn't moved, so I'm doing something wrong. 212, 30, and negative 10. Let's put these in brackets like this. There we go. Okay, so now what should happen, if we go back to the bike, if I move the engine, it doesn't work. So negative 5. What should be happening is the null object should be following, but it's not. So let's keyframe this. keyframe this. Okay, nothing's happening, so we need to go in here and figure out what we did wrong. Engine is, oh, we didn't do anything here. All we did is take the one value, which, no, that's right. Engine position. Let's take the origin. Oh, no, that's right. I'm just trying to think. I just have to break down the math a little. I'm probably doing something really obvious, but it's always hard when you're doing Twitch to have your brain not in two places at once. So I'm just gonna do this. I have a few more minutes before I have to stop. So ENG difference, engine difference is equal to ENG position minus ENG origin. So, but it doesn't seem to be doing anything. So what should happen is if I move this, that null object should be moving, but it's not doing anything at all. Well, yeah, it is. Oh, I know what I did wrong. Oh, I'm a dummy. I'm sure everyone saw that. Sorry, guys. I'm the worst. So let's go engine top. There we go. It wasn't even parented. There we go. So now you'll see it stretching. Now, the only thing that's happening is we probably need to pull this pipe a little further off. It looks like it's intersecting as it's stretching. So let's go negative 15. Oh, I know what's happening. It's not actually stretching. It's just going outside of the composition size. See, so as I pull it up, it's stretching. It's going beyond the borders of its comp. So I should probably make that a little bit bigger. Not that we're actually going to go that high, but it's always a bit better to be safe rather than sorry later. So back to that reposition. And that's sort of skewed this because it's anchored, because of its anchor point. So I'm going to have to position it back down again, which thankfully its position doesn't play into this equation at all. Okay, and I might have to scale this thing back up again. Just double check and make sure we're paying attention that everything's right. Okay, that looks okay. So let's try it again. There we go. Now, what I can also do with the other part of the pipe, not that this, I don't know how much this really is necessary, but we can take this and you can have it sort of average this. So if you took this middle piece, I'm just copying and pasting the code and pasting it here. I can make it the average of, or like half, right? So it's like pretty easy to do if you just, engine diff, and I'll just take this value here. I mean, the other thing you could do is you could make it the sum of the average of these 2 points, but I'm not going to be moving the bottom one, so there's really no point. So it's sort of really cheaty. It's not quite, like it's not real, but it'll work. It'll get the point across. So let's just have a look again. So now the middle will also move a little bit too, which will give more of a sense that it's real. Even though like we're not doing that much with it. It's not going to move that much. So once again, it throws into question how much of this is necessary, but I do like to, it's a good example, So now if we move this pipe around, this is following it nicely. So I imagine you could use this for other things, So I think that's kind of the cool thing. Oh no. Has my whole stream not been? No, it looks like the stream video here is just showing. I better reload this just to make sure. it's showing like a frozen starting soon image. I'm nervous. Okay. All right, so now what do? We have this, that's working. So I have to stop and go pick up my child, but that's all working. And I think what I'll do too is I'm going to parent the light. We have this light base. I'm going to parent it to the engine top. So now if this moves, that moves. And then this little rocket engine exhaust thing, we'll parent that to the engine top as well. And I might make its anchor point a little bit deeper because I feel like if we animate anything, it'll probably be on it like that. Cool. So now that can rattle around a bit. So if we put a position and rotation, I don't think rotation will do anything. That's the only problem here is we didn't take into account rotation. If there's a little bit of rotation, we can actually add or subtract the rotation value from the guy here. So let's just do that super quick while we're here, while we are here. Let's just add this little value in right here. So we'll go get the pipe comp back, and then to add to the whole thing, I'm going to take the rotation value just because I can do it really easily. The other thing I could have done is create another parent object and follow that, but I'm just trying to create something that's really, really basic. Like you can create an object that you literally follow around, but this is just another way to do it. That's a little bit, it's pretty basic because we're not doing much. It's pretty basic. So I'm going to take this rotation, engine top rotation on the Z, because I know that's the only way I'm going to rotate it. I'll add this ENG ROT equals, and because it starts at 0, I don't have to create any kind of fancy math, nothing to zero it out. So we have that, engine rotation equals that. So now what I can do is just quickly go back here. And I know that if I rotate this way, I need it to come up just a bit. And if I rotate the other way, I need it to come down. So I just want to know what way is. So going up is down. So we can take this, and on the Y, we can subtract engine rotation. And on the X, I think it's going to be plus. And this will probably be possibly too much. Okay, so let's have a look. Bunk. So it's a little bit too much, so we'll just tone it down a bit. Times 0.5, pretty easy. I mean, because what we're doing is so limited, it's just like, it's a bit of a cheat, but because it's limited, because it's a predictable setup, we can really do a lot with it. Now we're falling out of the boundaries again. I must have undone something I did. Well, it doesn't matter because we're not going to move that much. Okay, cool. So now what I can have here is like a wiggle or a jitter or something. What I'll actually do is I'll pair it all into the thing, but so we'll wiggle like, let's say 5 times a second at 3 degrees, which is probably too much. We'll go like this. So now this will bump around and the pipe will respond. But then what we can also do, let's just close this guy off for now, is I want the position to correlate with the rotation. I don't want them both completely random. So now what I'll do is I'm going to click here and we'll do another position X equals, it's kind of annoying when you have the 3 values. Well, it's just this, and then position Z equals here. And then we'll go this, position X, come to position Y, position Z, go like that. Great. And here, and then all I want to do is I want to add my position. I want to take this, create a rotation value. So let's keep it consistent. ENG underscore ROT equals. So we'll just take this rotation. And we're just literally going to, actually, we'll take a value at time. We'll do a slight offset dot value at time, and time minus 0.05. That should work. Great. And then what I'm going to do is just add and subtract this add eng underscore rot, and then subtract. I might change these values a little bit, but what that'll do is that will make it so the positioning of this thing correlates directly to the rotation. So you're not getting just random, because random, in my opinion, doesn't usually look super good. It doesn't look like the rotation has any effect on the position. Now that I've linked them together, they actually feel like they belong together. Like one movement is influencing the other. So there we go. So and this value. So now what I will end up doing is linking this rotation to a slider or something that I can modify how much it's affecting this based on what he's doing on the bike, right? So it's not just constant, because his speed will be changing and stuff like that. So I'll eventually want to create a primary wiggle system that says if he's moving fast, wiggle a lot. If he's moving slow, tone it down. And it'll be very manually and cheaty. But now what I can do with this, it's already happening a little bit, but I'm going to take, we can go back here, back into the pipe. So let's go here. The last thing, these are like the little details that can, make all the difference in a feature film, or, they definitely add up. Okay, so I just want to grab this rotation value here. This is the engine rotation. And I'm going to grab that and stick that in here, but I'm also going to do a value at time. And I'm going to offset it a little bit, minus 0. Let's go 1.5. And I want to do the same thing I was doing to this before, but I want to, so we'll go plus eng underscore rot. We'll do minus underscore rot. Oops. Sorry, guys. Now, what this should do is it'll give this thing a bit of a bumping jitteriness, but I want this to be bigger. Let's go like that, and let's go times 2. Let's see what happens. Let's go even more. Let's just be crazy. 6 times 3 bracket. Okay. Okay, so that's probably too much on the X. And let's focus more on the Y being the big one. Okay, it's probably a little too much. And we could probably, I don't know, the timing might be right. The slower our time is, the more we subtract the time here, this value here, the heavier the pipe will feel. So let's go here. Now the cool thing about this is we can add all kinds of values to this. So if this one's also rotating, we can influence it that way too. So now you're seeing it's getting a little bit of this. There's a bit of a lag to it, making it a bit more organic. Let's subtract 2 off and see how that feels. That might be too much. Yeah, that's too much. So 2 is too much. Probably could get away with 1. That'll make it seem a little bit more cohesive, like they're somehow related. Cool. All right, so next thing will be adding more controls to this bike. So I'm going to have to do that tonight. But we have the pipe. We have the bottom of the pipe working. We'll need to do something for this little guy because I want to have this one rattling too. So we'll have both rattling, and they'll all be driven by one thing. So this one will rattle. This will rattle. Then I have to set up something for the bike for the handlebars, which will be pretty easy. It's just going to be a null object that rotates. And then we just make sure that the orientation stays consistent. So that's pretty simple to set up. But yeah, so there's more to do. And then after that, we got to rig the whole biking character, which is pretty straightforward. It will be a really standard Duik rig, and the only thing that's going to be special is how we set up our control objects to react to the bike. But that's going to be a lot of what we just did here with like value offsets and time offsets and copying a value from one object to another. Okay, and so I guess the other thing to keep in mind is because the bike is only going to be medium framed, I don't want to get too crazy with all these details because there's going to be a lot in the scene. So I don't want to work with it really close up, but you can see that the little rumbling has a pretty positive effect overall anyways, even when the bike is small. I guess what I'll do too is, just so that we can see the whole thing kind of in action, is we'll take the pedals and we'll rotate the pedals too. We'll just do one whole rotation. Oh, other way. And we'll start getting a sense of how everything's moving. I think I'm definitely thinking that I'll do a rattliness on a few other things as well. Like even the steering wheel or the bike handlebar will kind of bounce around a little bit, and that will influence the puppet as well. So all this like jittering around will have an effect on the whole thing. So that will definitely be driven by a root wiggle controller. Okay, so I'm going to call this quits for now. And then I will stream again, hopefully this evening, to finish off this bike and get the character on it. Awesome. Thank you.